Earth holds treasures beyond imagination, rare elements, more valuable than gold, more powerful than any energy source known to mankind. But when an alien princess arrived to study these wonders, humans rejected her presence. Fear turned into hostility, and what started as a peaceful visit led to an all-out war. Stay till the end to witness how this battle unfolds and who truly wins in the end. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before Viana as she gazed at the blue planet below. Earth, a world rich in elements that could unlock secrets of the universe, resources that her people, the Scifi, had studied from afar for centuries. But today was different. Today she would step onto this world herself. Her fingers hovered over the control panel of her ship, the Vora, a masterpiece of Scifi engineering. It shimmered like liquid silver, its surface pulsing with soft blue lights that responded to her touch. The moment she activated the descent sequence, a gentle hum filled the air. She took a breath, her heart steady, but her mind alert. Entering Earth's atmosphere, her advisor Aeon announced. His voice was smooth, carrying the calm authority of an elder. We are receiving multiple signals from their satellites. They are aware of our presence. Viana expected this. Humans were cautious creatures, known for their fear of the unknown. She had studied their history, their wars, their desperate need to control what they did not understand. But she also knew their potential, their drive, their curiosity. That was why she had come. A soft vibration ran through the ship as they broke through the upper atmosphere. Outside, the darkness of space gave way to a sky painted in brilliant hues of orange and blue. The sight was mesmerizing. For a moment, Viana allowed herself to admire it. Then the alarms flared. Incoming projectiles, Aeon warned. They have launched an attack. Viana's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. So soon, she thought. I had sent peaceful transmissions, yet Earth's response was immediate hostility. Activate the shields, she commanded. We will not fire back. A golden energy field flickered to life around the ship, absorbing the impact of the missiles. They detonated harmlessly, their fiery trails vanishing into the sky. Her ship remained unharmed, but her heart clenched at the aggression. Why did they attack without listening? She pressed a button on the console, broadcasting a message to the world below. Her image would appear on every screen, her voice reaching every nation. People of Earth, she spoke calmly, her emerald eyes steady. I am Viana of the Scifi. I come in peace. I seek knowledge, not war. Your planet holds elements that are rare in the universe. I wish to understand them, to share our discoveries. In return, we offer technology that could benefit your world in ways you cannot imagine. I ask only for diplomacy. Her words carried across the planet, but she knew they would not be enough. Humans were stubborn creatures. They feared what they did not control. A response came swiftly. Unknown vessel, this is Earth's Defense Command. You are in restricted airspace. Leave immediately, or we will take further action. Viana closed her eyes for a brief moment. She could leave, but that would mean surrendering to their fear. If she left now, they would always see her kind as a threat. No, they needed to see the truth. Hold our position, she said. Aeon hesitated. Princess, they will escalate. She nodded. Then let them. Below, the world braced for war. On the ground, inside a heavily fortified command center, General Marcus Rolan watched the screens with narrowed eyes. The alien ship hung in the sky like a silent predator, its metallic body reflecting the sunlight. They haven't retaliated, one of his officers muttered. Their shields absorbed our attacks, but they didn't fire back. Marcus clenched his jaw. He had spent his life preparing for threats beyond Earth, training for the moment humanity would face an advanced species. But this wasn't what he had expected. They should be fighting back. Why aren't they? Sir, the alien broadcasted a message, another officer reported. She claims they come in peace. Marcus scoffed. That's what they all say. He had read the history books. Every invader, every conqueror had spoken of peace before bringing war. Humanity had learned that lesson the hard way. They wouldn't be fooled again. Prepare the advanced missile systems, he ordered. If they don't leave, we strike with full force. The room fell silent. His officers hesitated, but no one questioned him. On the Viora, Viana saw the energy reading spike. More weapons, stronger than before. They are preparing another attack, Aon said grimly. Princess, if they launch this time. Viana exhaled slowly. We neutralize their weapons, nothing more. A pulse of energy rippled outward from the ship, an invisible wave that spread across the sky. On the ground, military bases went dark. Missiles froze in their silos. Fighter jets lost power, forced to glide back to safety. Across the world, panic erupted. The aliens shut down our defenses, newscasters shouted. They are taking control. Inside the command center, Marcus slammed his fist against the table. They've disabled everything, he growled. We're completely vulnerable. A cold chill ran down his spine. He had expected brute force, but this was something else. They weren't killing. They were showing restraint. Then the alien spoke again. I have disabled your weapons, not as an act of war, but as a message. You cannot harm us, yet we have not harmed you. We ask again. Let us talk. Let us understand each other. Marcus stared at the screen, his mind torn. Was she telling the truth? Could it be possible? But before he could decide, the order came from above. Launch the experimental weapon. His stomach dropped. Sir, an officer whispered, that could destroy an entire city. If it fails, the order stands. In the sky, the Viora detected the energy spike. Viana barely had time to react before the weapon was launched. It tore through the sky, a blinding streak of light, faster than anything they had encountered before. Impact. The explosion rocked the ship. Energy surged through its core, tearing through systems. Alarms screamed. The shields flickered, and then the ship fell. Viana gritted her teeth as the world spun around her. Stabilizers! We've lost them! Aeon shouted. Brace for impact! She closed her eyes as the ground rushed toward them. The desert was silent when she awoke. Smoke curled into the sky from the wreckage, small fires crackling along the torn edges of her ship. Her body ached, but she was alive. The sound of approaching footsteps made her turn. Soldiers, dozens of them, weapons aimed directly at her. A man stepped forward, tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform marked with medals of war. His face was hard, unreadable, but his eyes burned with conflict. Marcus, he said coldly, this is the end, alien. Viana met his gaze. Is it? Silence stretched between them. For the first time, Marcus saw something in her expression that unsettled him. Not fear, not anger, disappointment. And something deep inside him whispered, what if we're wrong? The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the smoking wreckage of the Viora. The desert air was thick with tension, the scent of burnt metal mixing with the dry wind. Soldiers surrounded Viana, their fingers tight on their triggers, their expressions cold and unreadable. Yet she remained still. Fear would not serve her now. Marcus took a step forward, the weight of command pressing heavily on his shoulders. He had spent his entire life preparing for an invasion, training to protect his people from threats beyond Earth. Yet now, standing face to face with the alien princess, something felt wrong. She did not look like a conqueror. Her emerald eyes, though piercing, were not filled with malice. The silver threads in her dark hair shimmered under the setting sun, a stark contrast to the destruction around them. She stood with a quiet dignity, her tall frame unyielding despite the chaos. "Restrain her," Marcus ordered. 2 soldiers moved in, heavy cuffs clanking in their hands. Viana didn't resist. She allowed them to bind her wrists, the metal cool against her skin. They were primitive restraints, unable to hold her for long, but she did not struggle. "You could have left," Marcus muttered as he studied her. "You could have run when we attacked, but you didn't." Viana tilted her head slightly. "I came to understand your people, not flee from them." He scoffed. "You disabled our weapons. That wasn't diplomacy, it was necessity." Her voice remained steady. "Had we not, your people would have reduced my ship to ashes without ever hearing my words." Marcus had no response because she was right. A soldier approached, whispering urgently in his ear. Marcus stiffened, then turned back to Viana. "Move." She walked ahead of them, escorted toward a line of armoured vehicles waiting to transport her. The soldiers held their guns firm, as if expecting her to break free at any moment. Viana's gaze flickered across the landscape. The desert stretched endlessly, the last rays of sunlight painting the sand in hues of gold and red. Despite the hostility surrounding her, she found Earth's beauty undeniable. As she was pushed into the back of a military truck, she caught sight of the sky above. The first stars began to twinkle, distant but ever present. Her people would be watching. Would they come for her? Would they see this as an act of war? She let out a slow breath. "I must make them see reason before it is too late." The military base was nothing like the grand halls of Zari command centers. It was crude, built of concrete and steel, designed for war rather than wisdom. The air smelled of oil and sweat. The walls lined with surveillance screens and weapon storage. Viana was led into a dimly lit chamber where a single chair sat in the center of the room. Restraints jutted out from the armrests, meant to hold her in place. "Sit," Marcus motioned toward the chair. She did. The cuffs on her wrists were removed, only for stronger ones to be clamped onto her arms and legs. The restraints hummed faintly, sending a mild electric pulse through her body. Human technology, attempting to suppress Zari physiology. A futile effort. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You claim to come in peace, yet your arrival nearly crippled our defences. Why should we believe you?" Viana met his gaze without hesitation. "Because if I had come as an enemy, your world would already be ash." The room fell silent. The truth hung heavy between them. Marcus clenched his jaw. "That's a bold claim." "It is a fact." His fists tightened. "Then why are you here?" She tilted her head slightly, her voice softer now. "To prevent war. To offer a path forward where we do not destroy each other out of fear." A muscle in his jaw twitched. "And the elements?" Viana nodded. "Your planet holds resources that are rare across the stars. We seek to study them, to understand their potential. In return, we offer knowledge that could elevate your civilization beyond its current struggles." Marcus narrowed his eyes. "You expect us to trust you?" She let out a breath. "I expect you to listen." For a moment he said nothing. Then he turned to one of his officers. "Increase the restraint field." A sharp jolt of electricity shot through Viana's body. It wasn't enough to cause harm, but it was a clear warning. She gritted her teeth, but did not react. "I don't have time for games," Marcus said. "If this is some elaborate trick, we will end it here." Viana held his gaze. "And if it is not?" Marcus exhaled sharply, pushing away from the wall. He didn't know why he was hesitating. Every instinct told him to treat her as a threat. Yet something about her words, her presence, made him pause. Before he could speak, an alarm blared through the base. "General!" An officer rushed into the room. "We have a situation." Marcus straightened. "Report." Unidentified crafts entering Earth's atmosphere. Multiple readings. They match the alien ship. Viana's heart clenched. Her people had come. Marcus turned to her, his expression dark. "Is this your doing?" She shook her head. No, but she knew what it meant. The Scifi believed she had been taken hostage. They would not stand by and watch their princess be imprisoned. Outside, the sky ignited with streaks of blue light. The war she had tried to prevent had begun. The airbase was chaos. Soldiers scrambled into position. Missiles were loaded and sirens wailed. The Scifi fleet descended, their ships sleek and silent, moving with precision unlike anything Earth's military had seen before. Marcus stood at the command post, watching the screens with growing dread. "This is exactly what we feared," one officer muttered. "They were never here for peace." But Marcus wasn't sure anymore. He turned to Viana, still bound in the interrogation room. "Call them off." She met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "I do not control them, but I can reason with them." Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to trust her, but if she was telling the truth, if there was even a chance to stop this, he had to try. He reached down, unlocking her restraints. The other soldiers tensed, ready to strike, but he held up a hand. Viana stood, rubbing her wrists. "Take me to the communication system." They rushed through the halls, the walls trembling from the distant rumble of warships. The control room was filled with static and overlapping voices as Earth's forces braced for the attack. Viana stepped forward, activating the base's broadcast system. "This is Viana of the Scifi," she spoke in her native tongue, allowing her words to translate across frequencies. "Stand down." The response was immediate. "Princess, we detected your distress signal," a voice from the fleet answered. "They have taken you prisoner." "I am not harmed," she replied, "but if you attack, it will confirm their fears. Do not let this become war." Silence. Marcus held his breath. Then slowly, the ships began to pull back. Earth's forces remained on high alert, but no missiles were fired, no destruction rained down, for now. Viana turned to Marcus. "I have done my part. Now it is up to you." He studied her, conflict raging within him. "One conversation," she said. "That is all I ask." Marcus exhaled. He had spent his life seeing the world in black and white, enemies and allies. But for the first time he wasn't sure which she was. "Fine," he said. "One conversation. A chance. A beginning." The tension in the air was suffocating. The Scifi fleet hovered above Earth like silent sentinels, their weapons primed but not yet fired. Below, human forces remained locked in formation, fingers twitching over triggers, missile systems humming with barely restrained energy. The entire planet teetered on the edge of annihilation, held together only by a single, fragile agreement. One conversation. Marcus paced in the dimly lit command center, his hands clenched at his sides. He wasn't used to diplomacy. He was a soldier, trained to eliminate threats, not negotiate with them. And yet here he was, standing beside an alien princess who had single-handedly stopped her people from launching an invasion. Viana sat across from him at the long steel table, her face calm but unreadable. She was nothing like what he had expected from an extraterrestrial leader. There was no arrogance, no blatant superiority. If anything, she seemed tired. "Let's get this over with," Marcus muttered, taking a seat. "Talk." She tilted her head slightly, watching him with those unearthly green eyes. "What would you have me say?" "You wanted this conversation," he said sharply. "So start talking. Convince me why we shouldn't destroy each other." Viana let out a slow breath, as if gathering her thoughts. "Your people assume we came here for conquest," she began, her voice steady. "But war was never our intention. We have long studied your planet, your people. Your advancements are remarkable considering your limited knowledge of the greater universe. But more than your technology, it is your spirit that intrigued us." Marcus frowned. "Spirit. You fight for what you believe in, she said. You build, you destroy, you evolve. Your kind is unpredictable, reckless even, but you do not surrender easily. That is rare. He scoffed. Sounds like a poetic way of calling us dangerous. Viana didn't deny it. You are, but so are we. And danger alone does not make one evil. Marcus leaned forward, his fingers drumming against the table. You still haven't told me why you're here. Her gaze darkened slightly. Your world is unique, not just for its resources, but for its potential. We have seen civilizations rise and fall. Species wipe themselves out before ever reaching the stars. Humanity is at a crossroads. You are advanced enough to be noticed, but reckless enough to be feared. He clenched his jaw. So, what? You came to judge us? No, she said. We came to understand you, to see if our people could coexist. But your leaders did not even allow that possibility. They responded with hostility before words could be spoken. Marcus stayed silent. He couldn't argue that when the Valora entered Earth's orbit, the first instinct of global powers had been to prepare for war. No negotiation, no diplomacy, just immediate defense. It was human nature. Strike before being struck. But was that instinct going to cost them everything? Viana continued. I do not blame your people for fearing the unknown, but we are no different from you. We protect what is ours. If the roles were reversed, if I had taken one of your leaders prisoner, would you not have come for them? Marcus exhaled through his nose. Probably. Then you understand, she said softly. He glanced toward the monitors, where live feeds showed the Zari ships maintaining their position. The standoff was still precarious. A single misstep could send both sides into full-scale war. So what now? Marcus asked. You said your people weren't here to conquer us, but Earth won't just let an alien race take whatever they want. What's your real plan? Viana hesitated. A partnership. He barked a bitter laugh. You really think Earth will just agree to that? They must. That's not how things work here. She leaned forward slightly. And if they refuse? If your leaders reject peace and insist on war? Marcus clenched his fists. Then it'll be a bloodbath. Viana's voice dropped to a whisper. And no one will win. A heavy silence settled between them. For the first time, Marcus allowed himself to truly think beyond the battlefield, beyond defense strategies and tactical superiority. If this war happened, it wouldn't just be about weapons and numbers. It would be extinction. If Earth won, the Zari would never forgive them. If the Zari won, humanity would never rise again. There would be no victors, only ruins. A crackling voice interrupted the quiet. General Marcus, the President is requesting an immediate update. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his short hair. Give me a minute. He glanced at Viana, who watched him carefully. You do not wish for this war, do you? He looked at her, really looked at her, and shook his head. No. Then help me stop it. Marcus didn't respond immediately because he wasn't sure if it was even possible. But he had to try. The White House was a fortress, hidden deep in a military bunker. The President and his top officials had gathered around a secure video feed, watching Marcus with sharp, unreadable eyes. General, the President's voice was clipped, measured. Tell us what the hell is going on. Marcus exhaled, standing beside Viana in the control room. Mr. President, I believe we have an opportunity to avoid war. War is already at our doorstep, the Secretary of Defense snapped. Those ships are a direct threat to every nation on this planet. Viana stepped forward. We are not here to conquer. If we were, this conversation would not be happening. The officials flinched at the sight of her. It was clear none of them had expected to see an actual alien standing in their war room. You claim to seek peace, the President said slowly. But your presence alone has thrown this planet into chaos. Viana did not look away. Because your people fear what they do not know. I understand that, but fear alone cannot dictate the future of your world. Silence. Then the Secretary of State spoke. What exactly do you propose? A partnership, she said. Knowledge in exchange for cooperation. We do not need your resources, but there is much your world could learn. We can advance your medicine, your technology, your understanding of the stars. And what do you expect in return? Simply that we are allowed to exist here in peace, to study, to observe, not as invaders, but as allies. The President folded his hands. And if we refuse? Viana's expression remained neutral. Then my people will not sit idle while their princess is held prisoner. If you see us only as enemies, then war will be inevitable. And I do not believe your world is ready for that battle. A cold, hard truth. The room fell into deep deliberation. Marcus could see the tension in the President's shoulders, the weight of an entire planet pressing down on his every word. Finally, the leader of this free world sighed. This isn't a decision I can make lightly. If what you say is true, we need guarantees. Viana inclined her head. Then allow me to speak with your global council. Let them see that we do not seek conquest. The President exchanged a glance with his advisers. Then slowly he nodded. One meeting. If you're lying, we won't hesitate to act. Viana exhaled, a flicker of relief crossing her features. That is all I ask. The screen went dark. Marcus turned to her. You really think this will work? She met his gaze. I don't know, but it is our only chance. Outside, the sky remained still. The Zari fleet waited. The world held its breath, and the future of two civilizations rested on what happened next. The meeting with the Global Council was unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed. Leaders from every major nation gathered in a secured underground chamber, their faces grim with uncertainty. Armed security surrounded the perimeter, their fingers resting on triggers, ready for the slightest sign of hostility. And in the center of it all, Viana stood calm and poised, her ethereal presence a stark contrast to the hardened men and women before her. Marcus remained by her side, not as her protector, but as a bridge between their worlds. He had spent his life fighting, but for the first time he felt like he was fighting for something greater than just survival. The President addressed the room. This is an unprecedented moment in human history. We stand at a crossroads, war or peace, life or destruction. The decision we make today will shape not just our future, but the future of all who come after us. Murmurs filled the chamber, some skeptical, others fearful. The Chinese representative spoke first. You ask for peace, but why should we trust you? How do we know this isn't a deception, a way to lower our guard before an invasion? Viana's voice remained steady. If conquest was our goal, we would not be speaking now. We have the power to take what we want, but we do not. Seek war. War destroys. War leaves scars that last generations. I have seen civilizations fall, planets turn to dust. I do not wish the same fate upon yours. A European leader leaned forward. You claim to offer knowledge in exchange for cooperation. What exactly do you offer? Viana did not hesitate. Medical advancements that could eradicate disease, energy sources that do not pollute your world, technology that could take you beyond the boundaries of your solar system. The room buzzed with murmurs once more. The promises were enticing, almost too good to be true. A Middle Eastern diplomat narrowed his eyes. And what do you ask in return? Viana met his gaze. Only that we are allowed to remain here peacefully, to observe, to learn, and for our people to be treated with the same respect you would demand for your own. The tension in the air was thick. Humanity had always feared what it did not understand, and yet there was something undeniably sincere in her words. Marcus could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on everyone in the room. If they rejected her offer, war would be inevitable. He stepped forward, his voice firm. "I've fought wars. I've seen what happens when two sides refuse to back down. This isn't a fight we can afford to have. If there's even a chance that this is real, that peace is possible, we owe it to ourselves to take it." Silence. Then finally the President spoke. "We need assurances. We need proof." Viana nodded. "Then allow us to share our knowledge. Allow our scientists and yours to work together. Let actions, not words, prove our intentions." The room erupted into quiet discussions, leaders whispering among themselves. Minutes passed. Then slowly, the President stood. "We will not make this decision in haste, but we are willing to take the first step." A tentative agreement, the smallest spark of hope in an otherwise dark horizon. Viana exhaled, a small smile forming on her lips. Then today, we change history. The news spread across the globe like wildfire. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their first contact with an alien race had not ended in war. Over the following weeks, cautious cooperation began. Small teams of human and Scifi scientists worked side by side, exchanging knowledge, testing theories. Medical breakthroughs were made overnight. Diseases once thought incurable had potential treatments. The first clean, limitless energy source was introduced, ending reliance on fossil fuels. But most importantly, fear began to fade. Where once there had been paranoia, now there was curiosity. The Scifi were no longer just invaders from the stars. They were explorers, scholars, beings not so different from humans. Viana was given permission to travel freely. Her presence was no longer seen as a threat. She walked among humans, observing their world with fascination. Marcus, once a soldier trained to destroy threats, found himself as something else entirely. A mediator, a bridge, a man caught between two worlds, yet belonging to both. And as he stood beside Viana, watching a group of human children laughing as they played alongside young Scifi, he realized something profound. War had not been avoided because of superior firepower. It had been avoided because two people, two warriors from opposing sides, had chosen to talk instead of fight. The galaxy was vast. There were other threats out there, other conflicts waiting beyond the stars. But for now at least, Earth had found peace, and that was a future worth fighting for.